Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Hunter from Outtenastrophotography, back with another imaging video tonight. We are going to be diving into the constellation of Scorpius, and we're going after a crowd favorite of mine, especially right near the bright star Antares. Now you're wondering to yourself, what are we could be possibly doing inside of the constellation of Scorpio? And it requires a very large size, especially for how large this target is in general. We're going after Rho Ophiuchi, which is right near the constellation of Scorpius, and Antares is right there in the center of it. Now I have done this target about 2 years ago, but I haven't really had a chance to go back and revisit it, unfortunately. But now is the time that we are going to be going after it, especially now with the rocket on. I'm still having the wide field set up. We are going to be heading into that tonight, since now the moon is getting closer towards the last quarter, so I can start doing broadband again. I've been doing a lot of narrowband, especially in Cygnus as of recently. If you've seen from the community post that I've been doing a little bit of some astrophotography in there whenever it is clear, but we are expected to have a very nice clear sequence coming up for this upcoming weekend. Could be looking at multiple nights that we could be imaging, hopefully, especially with the moon beginning to go away. Now the biggest problem I could be running into tonight is a little bit of some thunderstorm activity that is just on the other side of the Chesapeake Bay here. Whether these clouds continue to be in the area or not, hopefully now that the sun is getting ready to go down, we should be looking at hopefully a clear night ahead. I just don't want to have to deal with any rain or any of the cirrus clouds that usually associate with thunderstorm activity. I mean, it is pretty much now the summer months, so it's no surprise as to, you know, having these random thunderstorms here, especially for how humid my climate is in general. So we're going to be hoping for the best here, and hopefully we'll be setting up for this evening, since this target still doesn't rise up above into visible plane until about 10 o'clock Eastern time anyway. So we still got a little bit of time for these clouds to kind of dissipate and these storms to die. Now usually a lot of times I will be set up here in the backyard, but the only place that the backyard is not good for is anything in the southern sky. So we have to set up things over towards the front of the house. But usually in my other spot, I can kind of get, you know, like the blue horse head was just above the outlines of the trees here. But the other problem for anything a little bit lower has to deal with power lines. Yeah, the only obstacle in myself that is going to give me problems is power lines, unfortunately. So for me, I would have to go closer towards my driveway, pretty much underneath the power line, so they're not going to be an issue. But then you have that other issue of the other cars that travel this road. Even though it is a back road for all means, we still have got a lot of traffic, unfortunately. So I kind of have to makeshift something a little bit to make sure I don't have a whole lot of car lights flooding the inside of the lens, especially when I'm kind of a little bit closer towards the road. But I do have a little bit of solution for that. So to give a little bit of a backstory of what this target is, it is kind of like a mix of everything. You got globular clusters inside of this nebulae, there is reflection nebula, there is emission nebula inside of this as well, but it is definitely a broadband target in general because of the reflection nebula aspect, that the light from stars is illuminating gas that's out in front of it, and it's a fairly large target in general. In fact, with my 135 rocket on, it basically frames it just right with the 2600 MC Pro. So that is exactly what we are going to be using tonight, and I'm kind of holding off on setting things up just in case that there is a little bit of some shower activity that tries to move in. But we're going to go get things set up for this evening when that does, and when it's really safe to. Now tonight, before the clouds and the thunderstorms get on out of here, I will be using my rocket on 135, which is an f2 system. Focal length 135, and the objective lens is about 76 millimeters. And I'm going to be on top of using the ZWL AM5 mounts with the pier extension and the carbon fiber tripod. And for tonight, I am going to be shooting with the ZWO ASI 2600 MC Pro. Inside here of the ZWO EFW, I am going to be using my Optolong L Quad Enhance full broadband light pollution filter. Going to be using the autofocusing as well with the Astrodonium setup. Guiding, we'll be using the SV Bonnie 30mm guide scope with the ZWO 120mm guide camera. And powering everything will be the ASI Air Plus. So when everything clears outside, we will be setting things up, and I will see you out there. Now, instead of one night, I had to do 2 nights because of some clouds that were coming through, and of course, not really having a whole lot of nighttime hours now because we're almost right at the summer solstice, being it's May 31st, so we only really got about 6 hours of darkness compared to all the daylight. So I did combine them all together, and this is what we come out with out of the stack. It doesn't really look like a whole much right now, but with the power of processing, we will be able to make this shine. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the stars so I can do a dynamic background extraction. So go ahead and let it run. All right, we have subtracted our stars. Let's go ahead and open up the DBE. Go ahead and correct our background here because it is kind of bright. This target is not very high up in my sky here, maybe about 30 degrees at most. So not really working with a whole lot of good data for this, unfortunately, but we're going to get this underway anyway. Definitely going to focus more down here in these corners along the side, dealing with some light pollution. Move these away from the center of the nebulosity in general. There we go. Let's go ahead and work with that. All right. Let's go ahead and bring our stars back with PixelMath. Use the expression. Alright, so it looks quite wacky right now, but it will improve, I promise. So next thing we're going to do is some blur exterminator to correct our stars. Going to do correct only first to make sure things are nice and round. And then I'll run another iteration with that unchecked so we can do some deconvolution. Alright, now that we got that done, let's do some denoise. And I've been a real big fan with the Graxpert denoise as of recently. So that is what I'm going to be using for this. The nice part is this is completely free to the public, and I have other videos on how to install Graxpert and the brand new Graxpert denoise on the channel too, which I will link. Now that our image is background extracted, blur exterminated, and denoised, let's go ahead and do some color calibration. Now, since this original image here was 3 times drizzle because I'm severely undersampled when using my Rokinon 135 and the 2600 MC Pro, So I have to image plate solve this. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And we're just to do a quick search of M4. Let this plate solve so we can do some spectrophotometric color calibration. There we go. So our image is plate solved. Let's go ahead and open up spectrophotometric color calibration. And the filter I used was the Optilong L Quad Enhance, which I already have that preset in here for the red, the green, and the blue. Leave everything else the same and drag and drop over and let it go ahead and color calibrate our image. Alright, our image is color calibrated. Let's go ahead and undo the stretch. And now we're going to stretch the image overall. So I'm just going to use one of Bill Blanchen's linked stretches. Bring it right on over. There we go. Looking pretty good besides the areas over here on the right hand side, which I'm just going to just crop that out. There we go. So we now have our stretched image here. Let's go ahead and work on the nebulosity in itself. So let's go ahead and remove these stars once again so we can start working on a little bit of some color. There we go. We have removed our stars. Go ahead and stick that off to the side. And let's work with our nebulosity here. You can see we got a lot going on. There's a lot of dusty regions with this. But definitely I can still see some green there in the background, which I'm going to go ahead and just use some SCNR to kind of tone that down. There we go. So let's go ahead and work on So now let's go ahead and work on some colors. And what I love to use is one of Bill Blanchen's color mask mods. So we can start with reds for now. See what kind of range we are dealing with here. Nice part is you get this color wheel so you can adjust what you need for the mask. Something like that looks pretty good. And let's go ahead, it's gonna make the mask and go ahead to blur it while we're at it. Drag it right on over. Hide the mask. Do a little bit of some curves. Let's go ahead and bring up the saturation on those reds and those oranges. Just like that. Do 2 rounds. That looks pretty good right there. I'm also going to do some dark structures enhancement to really pop out some of this dark nebula that we have here. And actually I'm going to go kind of aggressive on it too. I'm going to put it at like amount of 0.6. Because I really want this dark nebulae to stand out. There we go. Now that's looking really good. Alright, the next thing is I'm wanting to put a range mask over the entire area because I'm going to do a little bit of some adjustments as far as trying to bring out a lot of that dark nebulae in the background. Something like that. Drag that over. Work on the RGB curves. Brighten that up. So that looks good on the overall nebula in itself. But then I'm going to take the same mask and I'm going to invert it. Bring it over. And then darken the overall background. Something like that. There we go. Let's go ahead and work on the blues real quick. Utilities, color mask mod. I'm going to zoom in and find where our color palettes are for the blue, which is kind of in between the blue and cyan. Something right around there. Which is also going to pick up a little bit of the background too, unfortunately. Bring up some of the blue. There we are. So we got some blue showing up in there. Still showing a little bit in the background, which I'll be able to fix that here in just a moment. Take out a little bit of that blue. There we go. So now we're looking pretty darn good here. We got some great detail in with this. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of some sharpening too. Simple script of scripts, utilities, advanced sharpening. Go ahead and let that run. There we go. Now we got some sharpening done on our image. Let's go ahead and rename this as starless so we can work on the stars real quick. Alright, go ahead and work on our stars. We want to make sure we take care of any green that we have. So SCNR, invert it, SCNR again. And then we're going to do a star mask so we can add a little bit of some saturation and some extra color to our stars in general. I'm going to go ahead and find the star mask tool. Run it in our image. And definitely we're going to have to do some star reduction, because if not, a lot of this nebulosity is going to get washed out. But we got a tool for that as well. Alright, there's our star mask. Open up the curves transformation. Let's bring up that saturation of those stars. There we go. I'm going to rename this as stars. Alright. Now that we have our stars and we have our nebulosity starless, let's go ahead and combine them with the script here. Create a new image. And there we go. It's a very busy background in general. We can also do a little bit of some histogram. So we can even up background a little bit. Darken up the background just a little bit there. All right. Looking to be a pretty darn good image here in general. Now let's do some star reduction, because there's a lot of stars and we need to shrink them down so the nebulosity can shine. So right off the bat here, we're looking pretty good. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Do about a moderate. Now I can protect the small stars if I want to, but from the looks of it, I kind of like it just like this. So let's go ahead and run it. And there we go. There is our brand new image with the reduction of some stars. And look at that. Beautiful nebula complex. You got it all. Emission nebula, dark nebulae, and reflection nebula, all in one cluster here, just outside of the Milky Way spiral arm. I'd like to thank everyone for watching today. If you like what you see, leave a comment, like the video, share the page to your friends. We're getting fairly close now to 1,000 subscribers here on the page. I'm going to be doing some more tutorials here soon. If you have any other suggestions of tutorial-wise for Pixinsight, please let me know down in the comments. Have a great one, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.